Hi, welcome to my channel. This is ODT Tech. On this channel today we'll be talking about intro to Python programming language. In this video I'll be showing you how to get started with Python programming language, things around setting up, which includes you downloading your Python installer and setting up Python on your computer, as well as tools that you will need like your editor and virtual environment, right? And on this today I will teach you how to get started with Python programming language from the basics to you feeling a bit comfortable. At the end of this video you'll be more comfortable reading Python code as well as writing your own. Without further ado, let's get right into it, shall we? To get started, we are first of all going to have to download Python if you don't have it installed on your machine. To do that, you come to this website here, python.org. Not to worry, I'm going to put the links to this website in the description below. So you come to python.org and then you come to download, right? Then you can download the installer. Because I'm on a Mac, so it's already suggesting me a Mac. You can download respective one. You can pick your operating systems here as you wish. For this video, I'm going to be using Python 3.10, and I can look for that here. You can click this. See, the installer is just right there, so you can download the installer. However, I already have this installed on my local machine, so all you have to do is just download it and then click the installer, and you just follow through the installation processes there, right? And that's about it to get started. So after that, you want to also set up a virtual environment. Using virtual environment is a good idea because you can encapsulate the dependencies that you are using for your computer or for your program, away from the ones that are generally available on your computer, globally on your machine. So because of this, it's a good idea to always use a virtual environment. For me, I'm using one called Poetry, and I'll also put the link to this in the description. You can follow through the installation process here, and then installation should be straightforward. One other thing we need to also get available before we proceed is the text editor or IDE. For me, I use Visual Studio Code, so but you can use anyone that you prefer. If you want to use Visual Studio Code, here is the link to download it, and you can just download it. I'll also put the links to this in the description as well. Development. Okay, so I have prepared a project, right? Just a directory. I already created a directory and a folder, right? And that's about it. I haven't done anything just yet. Okay, also not to worry, the links to this will be, I'll put this code on my GitHub, and you can always go there, and importantly, you can use it as a point of reference for your, as you walk along with this. So because I'm using Poetry to instantiate Poetry, I say Poetry in it, right? And it's asking me some few questions. I say yes, yes. You can skip. You see it's picking up my version that I have on my computer, which is 3.10, and I don't want to do any dependencies, but if you like you can, and that's about it. And yes, and it's generated me this file called pyprojects.toml, which is the configuration that Poetry uses in locating dependencies that are available. I'm not using anything. I just pick default, select, yes, 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 as you've seen. The reason is because I'm trying to keep this very simple and focused on what we are trying to achieve here, which is development, getting started with Python programming language. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is create a file called main.py. For any Python program you want to write, you need to put the extension .py. That is the extension that Python interpreter would that's how we differentiate a Python file, right? .py. So we're going to start with something called data types, and to declare data type you have to assign it to a variable. A variable essentially is a name for a value, right? For an assigned value that you can use to reference the value later on. All right, so there are a couple of those data types. So but today we'll talk about the most common ones. One of those is a string, right? And to declare a string, let's declare a variable called name. All right, and we assign it to a string type. And to declare a string, you do quotes, right? Double quotes, right? And I believe you can also do single quotes as well, but I usually do double quotes. So let's say name, let's assign it a value called dummy. All right, so and just like so, we've declared a variable name and assign it to a string variable, a variable name, and assign it to a string type. Okay, and we can verify this by calling a inbuilt function called type. Type is an inbuilt function, and we pass it the variable. We want to check the type of it. And if we run this main.py by saying python main.py, sorry, so we need to print this as well, right? So there's yet another function called print. So we say print, let's say type name. Let's remove this one, right? And we can see it's of class string. All right, so one thing I've just shown us now is something called functions, and we are going to see how these are inbuilt function. We've seen two. This is print, this is type, and they are both functions, but we'll see how we can also create our own function in a bit. All right, so another data type that exists is an integer, right? Let's say sales. All right, let's just say sales. Let's do total sales, something more definitive for a reason. And that is a whole unit. So let's say total sales. Let's say total sales is 90. All right, this is how you declare a string, an integer type, right? Okay, an integer type, and we can verify what type it is. If we do type here and run this again, you see the type is of int. This is an integer type. Another type that we can have is a float. So we can do something like sales. All right, and we can have something like 50, or let's say amount. All right, it can be anything really. I'm just trying to be a bit more creative with the variable names. So let's say 12.99. all right, and this is a float type, a floating type. All right, a floating type. Okay, another type that we can have is boolean. Another very common one. A boolean is a true or false, say yes or no kind of stuff. So in Python it's either true or false, and how you can do that is like, let's say is life. All right, this is true. All right, and this is a boolean type, bool. Okay, and these are comments. All right, and to declare a comment, you just put an hash, and then whatever you put in there, you can see that so anything you put in here, the interpreter will not read it. It will not try to run it as a code. It would understand that it's a comment and it's supposed to skip it. Okay, so we've been playing with we've been working with functions, inbuilt functions here. All right, how about we create our own, right? That would make sense, and we can make some good use of this, right? That would make sense. So how about we say, I'll clear this. I'll leave this code here for now. So let's say we wanted a function. How do we create a function? So to create this is how you create. These are functions. Let's put something here called, let's just name it, let's say data types, right? And to declare a function, you do something like, say def, def, right? And then you put the function name, let's say hello. all right, and you put this like that, the bracket, then you do a colon, right, and that's how you define a function, right? So there is this keyword called pass. If you do this, this program will run, even though this function does nothing, right? But it will ignore like this. It's, you can think of it as nothing has been implemented there, right? But it's fine like so. So the interpreter does not error out. If I remove this, you can see my my text editor itself is actually telling me that something is wrong here. So, and this doesn't really do much. What can we do with it here? So let's say print hello, all right, and let's just say print hello. Okay, and if we do print here, say hello, and run that again, you can see it says hello and none. All right, and that is because Python runs as a in the main thread, so we need to do something here. Instead of running print there, we can just do something like say so the first print is, why we are saying this is because this print is the one inside the function, but this function returns nothing, so it's return none. So one thing we can actually do is say come down at the base of our file and do say if underscore underscore, right, name, right, underscore underscore equals this underscore underscore main underscore underscore, like so. So what this means is that when you're running and you come across the file main, right, even though most Python file we have this main.py file, there's a lot there, so everything in here will run automatically, right? So if we do say hello here without having to say print, you can see we now can just say hello. Even if we remove this, you can see we are not getting that none anymore, right? So that's how we can, this is how we can declare a function. Okay, we've declared a function like this, and this is how you call the function, by putting, you know, the brackets as well again after the name of the function, right? And you can call the function like that. Now this is not doing so much. What if we want to do more than this? Like this, say hello. Now let's say we want it to greet someone. All right, so a function can take arguments, right? As many arguments as needed. In this case, let's say this say hello should greet any name that we give it. So let's say name, right, and we can do space, okay, and we can do something like this and say name. All right. So this is a good place to show you something called string format, right? Instead of doing this, so we can have f string, right? We can do this f string, and then in here we do this and put name. That way it's going to replace name with whatever value this thing is getting and still retain it as a string. All right, so in here let's bring all this. Let's say we are going to define all this. Let's leave it as this. Let's comment them all out. Let's say name now says dummy. All right, if we run python main.py again, it should say hello dummy. Okay, and like so we've created a function, and a function that takes argument pretty much. All right, so we want to talk about something called control flows. All right, there are a number of them. So we'll start with a very common one called if else. All right, let's create another function. Since we've talked about function, let's play around with more function. Let's create more functions so we can you know, just build the muscle memory around it. So let's say if our project is live, right? This is a very trivial. Let's assume this is a project, and then this is our program is supposed to let us know that, oh, a project is live, and then congratulate. So let's say congratulate, let's call it project, a function name called project status. All right, and it will take an argument of is live, all right, which is boolean. Okay, and then in here we do if is live, right? Let's take more than one project name. Let's say the project would, this function would also take the project name and then if it's live. So let's say comma, and what's the project name? Let's take project name. All right, so if it's live, we say print congratulations, then do, let's use f string again, say f, yeah, project, right, and do space, project name is live. All right, and then we say, we'll leave it as, we say if this, and else if it's not, we say print there is more work to be done. All right, let's just keep it simple like that. We are not calling the project name here. All right, so let's do this here now. Let me comment this one out. Just gonna say project name. We are calling it, what's the project name? Let's say ODT channel. Let's say that's the project name. I know this is not very yeah, project name, that's the project name. And is it live? I say true, which is boolean. All right, and if we test our program again, I'll say main.py, say yeah, congratulations, ODT project ODT channel is live. Okay, what if it's not? So let's say false here. See, there is more work to be done, right? You can see that's a control flow, so we can literally just switch this or that like so. Okay, there is yet another one here. There is a new one. This is not, so if you are on any version of Python lesser than 3.10, right, you will not be able to access this feature I'm about to show you. It's match case, right? It got introduced from Python version 3.10. So let's do the same thing. It's more like an if else, right? Well, I don't know, you might find it more cleaner, so you can do something like match is live, then do case true. You say, let's bring this, let's just copy this, put it here, say case false, let's put it here. All right, and we can do any other thing by using this. Oh, we can do this. Let's run our program again. We are not changing anything, we just want to show this match case feature. It's a, you can see there is more work to be done, is actually falling in this case, more like your switch case kind of stuff. So if you say true here, congratulations, project ODT is live. So it works more like your if else, right? The only difference is like you can do, imagine you have like a lot of conditions instead of you having to do if I mean it's no problem if you don't find it an issue, but I think it's a very useful one. It's quite handy depending on what you're doing, so you might as well just explore the feature. All right, note this feature is not only going to work for people on version 3.10 and higher. If you're on version 3.9, this match case would not work. Right, let me put that in the comments here. All right, so another control structure we want to look at here is a loop, right? But before I show you what loops are, I want us to talk about something called controls, data type, data structure, excuse me. We want to talk about data structures. All right, so in a data structure like how you arrange data. I know I've kind of oversimplified it, but like it's how, when you hear data structure, it's like, okay, how do we fit this data, right? What kind of structure makes sense for this kind of data sets? All right, so we are going to look at a few of those. One of those is called a tuple. All right, so a tuple. Let's declare one, my tuple. And to declare a tuple, you use something like this. All right, I'm going to comment this function out as well as this calling one here, so we don't see that error again. So we have my tuple, and to declare a tuple, you use brackets like this, and then you put in any data type you want to put there. Let's say food, my tuple, what do we want to put in here? Let's say rice, beans, chicken, etc. All right, and to access this, we can just do print my tuple here, and if we run it, you can see, okay, if we print the type of this, right, you can see it's a tuple. All right, now before we go further, there is something I want you to pay attention to. If we have only rice here and we do this, okay, and we do type, you can see it says it's a string. All right, now the key thing here is when you are working with tuple and you have only one element in there, it is important to note that you have to add one comma there, right? If you have only one element. If you have more than one, it's fine, not end it with a comma, but if you have only one element, you have to end it with a comma. And if we run this again, you can see the type is now a tuple. Okay, so that being said, let's look at and one thing again to note is a tuple is an iterable. Okay, we want to look at other iterables like something called list, right? Let's say football teams, right? And we are putting this in a list. Okay, so how do we, a list is declared by using this square bracket, right? And you can put in anything almost like a tuple. Okay, except for list, if you have only one item, it's fine not to end it, of course. No, one of many other differences, of course, you don't have to end it with that extra comma. So let's say Man U, I'm just gonna shorthand things here. Let's say Chelsea, PSG, Liverpool, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if we want to print this out, we can do print football teams. Okay, and of course you get football teams, and if we print the type here, you can see it's a list. Now remember, I mentioned something earlier. I said they are iterables. Okay, list is also an iterable. Another control flow we've not looked into, it's a for loop. Okay, and I'm going to bring that here. I'm going to bring this here as my football team. Let's now, to do a for loop, you do for, right? You get an index when you loop over any item. Okay, you get the item, sorry, when you loop over it. So you can say team in football team. All right, and let's just print out the teams. Say team name. Let's use the F string again. Good team. If we run this now, you see it's team name, Man U, Chelsea, PSG, Liverpool, like so. All right, and we can do the same for a tuple as well. I'm going to copy this here. Let's put it. Let's do this here. Let's say tuple. All right. If we want to loop over a tuple as well, we can do so because it's also an iterable. So we can say for food in my tuple, can print out food. All right, and if we run this, you can see rice. If we did like we did earlier, say beans, chicken, grits. All right, and we do this, we're getting everything like that. So we can iterate over iterables, right? Another data structure we can look into is called a dictionary. Let me put a name here, a list. All right, a dictionary. So we do dictionary. To declare a dictionary, however, we have to use something. Let's declare a variable. Let's call this scores, right? Let's say scores. Okay, you use something like this, a curly bracket. All right, and when you use this curly bracket, the way dictionary works, unlike tuple and list, it works as a key value pair, right? So you have a key which has to be a string, and then you have the value, which can be any data type of your choice. Okay, so we can do, what if we do something like this? We do, in short, let's complement these things together. Let's say we have teams. All right, and we put a list here, and we say scores. Okay, and let's just do 1, 2. Oh, sorry, we have the, yeah, let's do 2, and let's say 3. You can use a string, you can use any data type. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm trying not to complicate this. I'm trying to keep it really simple. And to access a dictionary, you have to do there are two approaches how you can actually access a dictionary. First one is say score dot get. All right, say team. let's call this score, says team scores. All right. Okay. Sure, I think it makes sense to let's call this points. Let's call this points. All right. Let's say team points. Let's assume that the order is the same order for the team. So let's say print team point. I will say team point. Let's see what we get. Right. What to do? Oh, we actually pick the teams, right? So we have team points, but then we are picking the team. Let's pick the point instead. You can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the mistake, there was an error here. That's why we're getting the teams instead of the scores, because here I'm getting I was trying to get the teams instead of getting the scores, the points, sorry. Another approach of getting dictionary values is something like, say, teams. Let's say teams. We say scores. We can use this square bracket. You can see my editor is gracious enough to like try to help me autocomplete, so we can do things. Okay, and we can clear this out first. So we say this. So both works the same way. If we put points here as well, excuse me, if we do teams rather, excuse me, I wasn't printing the team. So if we wanted to do this, we can do this and this. All right, if we did this, you can see teams is also getting. So we are using two different approaches to actually get values from our dictionaries. Okay, so there are things we can do with the dictionary. So what if we want to get all the keys in this dictionary? So we can do print all keys, right? And we can do this. We say scores dot keys, right? These are methods on dictionary, so we can get all the keys in this dictionary. So if we do this, let me comment out all this one so we can have a cleaner log here. So if we run this again, all keys, we have teams, we have points. It returns us a list of the keys, right? Likewise, we can get all the values. If we do print all values, as you can imagine, we have lots of values. All right, so we can do that and we can get all the values. So these are the keys, these are the values, right? So depending on what you are trying to do, there is a lot you can actually do with this built-in methods on this data type. So another data type, so we've looked at these data types. Something else I want us to look into before we as we proceed now is called modules, right? They are default modules. Also, sorry, before we go ahead, there are methods that we can do with things we can do with lists, right? So we can do something like slicing of the list. Coming back up here, sorry guys, I almost forgot that. So we can get the length of this list. Let's say total teams, say len football team. Okay, let's clear this. If we do that to give us the, we need to print this. So print, right, and we can do that. I do this. Oh, it means the T. It means the T. Spellings, guys. So we have 4, and if you count this, it's 4, right? Okay. Something we can do here is called slicing, right? We can do something like, say, let's say we want to get the first 2 things, so we can use slice, right? String list slice. We can slice to get a slice of it. So let's say first 2, right? We can do something like this, say football team, right? We want the first 2, so we can do everything from the beginning. And remember, it's 0 index, so we say 1 and 0, then 1, right? And here is something you need to know: the last number is inclusive, right? So if you do this, we'll get only 2 to the first 2, only the first 2. If we print here, say print I'll run this again. Oh, sorry, we need to do 2. So this is not inclusive, sorry, beg your pardon. Yeah, so if we run this again, we can get Man U and Chelsea, right? The last index is not inclusive, so everything before the last index is not inclusive. What if we only want to get Chelsea, right? If we put the 1, right? We can do that, so we get just Chelsea. Also, you know, we can just get by index, by say 1, and we still get Chelsea. Okay. What if I want to get everything except the first item? Or let's say we want to get the last 2, right? We can get the first 2 by doing this. Let's say we want to get the last 2. Right, so we go by the index, you know, index 0 is 1, index 2, right? So if we do 2 to the end, just flip off that to get us everything. So if we comment these ones out, I'm gonna say print last 2, and you can see we have PSG and Liverpool. Right, so guys, I thought to show you that, as we've seen some things we can actually do with dictionary, and that skipped me. So all right, moving on, we want to look at modules, right? So how do modules work in Python? So modules are like, I will show you some inbuilt ones, as well as we will also create our own. They are essentially files with functions or classes, as the case may be, right? So but we have to import them. Okay, so for instance, let's import one that is called datetime. Okay, so we can do import datetime. All right, which in itself is a data structure anyway. So we can do print, let's say datetime now. All right, this is also a method, and I believe, yeah, this is a good one. Let's use this. I really don't want to dig deeper than necessary in this tutorial, so datetime.now is a good one. So you can say it gives us the date and the time, and you know, all of those. So, and that's how we can actually import stuff. But one thing to note here, you can see I had to do datetime, which suggests you know, I can actually just import datetime and import what I need. Because one thing to also notice, if you import the entire file, it brings everything, the entire module, brings everything in that module to this namespace, which also in later videos we'll talk about like how to improve our Python code, right? Which is not always a good habit anyways. So what we can do instead is do from, right? This is another way we can also import. So it's a from date time import date time. This happens to be the same name, right? So this is like a file name and then a class or a function name, as the case may be. So that means we can remove one of these and we should still be fine. Let me comment out all the other prints. Right. And we have the same thing, and there is one other print somewhere. Oh, I didn't save the file. Yeah. So yeah, and that's how we can actually create a module, import a module, right? What if we wanted to create our own module, right? If we wanted to create our own module, so we can come and create a file. Let's create a file. Let's call this students.py, right? And let's create a function in here. Let's say f students. Let's create a list of students. All right, we can do something like students, right? Let's combine the data structures that we've seen earlier. Let's say a list of dictionaries. All right, let's say name is Tom, age is 15, CGPA is 4.0. Tom is a very smart guy. And let's say let's duplicate this. Let's call this Nick is 25, CGPA 3.2. Right, let's create one more student. Let's say Becky is 18 and CGPA is 4.6. right? So we can actually just access this, right? So how do we, this is a module in itself, right? And we want to access this module. So we can do something like, this is a custom module. So we can say from student import students. And if we print out students here, print students, we should get a list of all the students like we have there. You can see we have the name like we have there. Note that this student is not in this namespace, is in this file, right? And that's basically how we can deal with modules in Python. If we had a function here that get us student's name, let's create a function that say students names, right? And we pass in students. Let's just say this function returns us student scores, right? Let's say return students. Let's say student scores CGPA. Yeah, I'm trying to make this something, you know, close to realistic. Let's call it CGPA. All right, and it takes list of students. It takes students. And then we can have CGPA, all right, as a list, all right, because we know how the structure of our students, so we can say for students in students, we are basically using a for loop here, right? We can say CGPA. this is another thing. This is a a method on list. It's called append. With append, we can add item to a list. Okay, so we can then say students dot, or we can just say student CGPA. Right, CGPA. Okay, and at the end of it, we want to return CGPA. Okay, in here, what we can do basically is just go say students, or we can say CGPAs is equals to student CGPA, and we can pass along student. Note we've not imported this module, this function, right? And it say is not defined. What we can do is come up here and import student CGPA, right? And we should be fine. Now what we want to print out the CGPA. Okay, it says CGPA. All right, so let's remove our students here, and if we run our code again, you can see we have all the CGPAs, right? And that's how we deal with modules in Python. So with this, now we've come to the end of this tutorial. All the code in this tutorial will be on my GitHub. I will drop the link below. Also, if you find this video very useful, give it a thumbs up. Also, try and share with your friends. Remember to punch that subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you'll be the first to know when new video drops on this channel. On to the next one, guys. Peace.